This is The Weekly Set, the official podcast of TheTotalScreen.com. Episode 172, recorded September 7th, 2018. Hello everybody, and welcome to The Weekly Set, the official podcast of The Total Screen. I am your host, my name is Tyson, and joining me today, as always, is my partner in crime here at The Total Screen, William Rohrig.
Hello.
So, today we are going to be talking about Castle Rock again. If you stuck with us through last week, we were going over the fall preview. Unfortunately, that meant that we weren't able to talk about last week's episode of Castle Rock. So this week, we are going to be discussing that episode, as well as this week's episode, so that we're all caught up and ready to dish about the season finale next week. So, let's talk about these two episodes. We're starting off with Season 1, Episode 8, Past Perfect, and then after that, we're going to be talking about Season 1, Episode 9, Henry Deaver. Normally, we would kind of discuss these as one thing, just talk about kind of what happened within the span of these two episodes, but these two episodes they're pretty distinctly separate, and because of that, we're going to discuss each one individually instead of just kind of mashing them together as one thing. So let's talk about Past Perfect. So the episode kind of started by bringing back like a little element that I thought just had gone by the wayside. Like I didn't think we were going to see again.
Which was the couple looking for a new home in Castle Rock. Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was the history teacher who had that. We immediately get this scene that kind of plays out like a fantasy or something in which he's belittling this other coworker of his, this younger coworker, and he's kind of like taunting in different ways, and finally he walks right up to him and he says, "What I can't forgive is that you slept with my wife."
Yeah,
and he
starts beating him. Given what happens next, I'm not sure about that scene, like, cause I guess maybe it's to establish.
I think it's like a fantasy.
I don't know, because apparently it happened, because, well, the whole, this guy slept with his wife thing happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, he ended up moving away. I think the implication more is like they're moving Castle Rock because of that incident. So I don't think that's a fantasy. It's not really set up like a fantasy. So, but
I thought is that he didn't actually beat that guy down or kill him or whatever, but that his wife did cheat on him.
His wife did cheat on him, but
and that he had fantasized about like killing that guy.
Even if
instead they left the castle.
Even if he fantasized about it, that's still problematic.
Yeah,
for what comes next and for the implications of what comes next, because that scene and then like what happens next in the episode and then the implications they make are kind of contradictory, which is okay. So we should get on talking about the rest of the episode, then I'll circle around to what I'm talking about with this.
Well, besides this history teacher moving into this house, that was the former warden's house. We pick up where we left off 2 episodes ago when Henry was locked into the back of the camper in the isolation chamber.
And here's another interesting thing. Yeah, Molly, who's psychically connected to Henry, finds him. She lets him out, and then we see the one guy, the deaf guy.
Yeah.
Right? He's dead. He's got like a pick in his eye or a screwdriver or something jammed in his eye by somebody. We don't really know who. The other guy is missing. The other guy's gone, and we don't even know where he is. He's not even mentioned. He's just gone. So is he dead too? Did he kill the other guy for some reason? I don't know. It's not touched upon or answered. Do you think
Lily killed him, or do you think she killed him? That Molly killed him?
No, Molly definitely killed him because
that timed with when they showed him.
Well, no, because Molly let him out. Yeah, I mean...
No, I mean, like, what you're saying that Molly killed him, like, that times well with what she said right before they showed him, which was, he had asked, where are those guys? And she said, like, I don't know. And then it panned out, and you saw the guy dead.
I don't know.
So the implication...
I didn't get that. I didn't get that implication.
Was that she killed him.
There's nothing to indicate that Molly's even capable of of that. Like, to just confront a guy and jam something in his eye.
Well, she killed Henry's father.
Yeah, when he was incapacitated on his deathbed, and she just, like, pulled, like, a little cord thing. Like, she didn't, like, physically, wrestle him and, like, come on. There's nothing to suggest Molly's capable of that kind of act. So
yeah, well, there's different ways you could perceive it as that being the case, or you could perceive it as like a disagreement between the two, with Willie ending up killing Odin, maybe not ready to go through with the whole, like, making himself deaf thing.
That's possible.
Or somebody else entirely that we just
I just find it interesting that they make a point to show his corpse, but they don't show Willie.
Yeah.
Or he's just gone. He's not mentioned.
Yeah, we didn't see anything on him, so that's kind of like, we only have one episode left, so I don't know if we are going to see anything on him, or if it's just going to be...
We're going to figure out what happened here? I don't know. So that's like another mystery that's just thrown out there, like kind of like in front of us. That's just another mystery, but I guess the important point of the scene is Henry is saved by Molly, and he's brought back home.
He's also more willing to accept the supernatural at this point, because of his experience in that isolation chamber. He was so messed up through it, and he said it felt like he was in there for years. He had seen so many things, and now, like, he seems basically to believe Molly about her stance on things. He's no longer, like, freaked out by her like he was just the last time the two of them had talked. So it implies that he's kind of like somewhat accepting of some level of the supernatural. He gets back to his house. He, sees his mom's asleep. He sees that the kid is still in his house. He's like, what the hell are you doing here?
Yeah.
At this point, he doesn't know anything about, knows anything about
he doesn't know anything about the fire or, the fact that he escaped.
Yeah. He's just like, what the hell are you doing at my house?
Because he dropped him off at the mental ward at that place, and then that's when he takes off and he gets put into that sound room.
Yeah.
So like he wasn't aware what's been going on.
He doesn't know where his son is, so he's asking the kid, he's like, where's my kid? And the guy's like, he's not here. He's like, well, where is he? And then he kind of like cranes his neck, like looking over, and you see that, like, his son's coming in through the front door at that point. And, his son kind of fills in a little bit of the picture about, like, the fact that this guy is still there, as he says, like, that he had been there before, and that's when he had left. At this point, the kid is, like, basically urgent, not his kid, the kid. Yeah. As he's credited in IMDb. Is like leaving out the door and basically getting Henry to kind of follow him. And he ends up leading Henry to the body of the former Sheriff Pangborn. And he's cleaned up some of the scene except the body, and he's talking about hiding the body.
Yeah.
And Henry's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And then you see his son had, like, thought something was off and had called the police, apparently.
Right.
And so the police are showing up, and
he talks to his mother, and she seems unaware because she says, she tells Henry to call Pangborn.
Oh, I was going to say before he was talking to the police.
Yeah.
One thing the kid said that kind of ties in, like, it's kind of like, what? And then it ties in the next episode, which we'll get back to when it happens.
This is where we get to, like, stuff. But first I want to bring up what Henry's mother told Henry, which she tells him to call Sheriff Pangborn, and she keeps saying, like, her husband came back and she killed him.
Yeah.
So like, at the end of, like,
well, she's not saying who it is at first. She's saying that she shot somebody in self-defense, and Henry's trying to figure out who she's talking about and realizes that she's talking about his father.
Yeah. So like, the ending of last episode, we get the idea that she's not even aware of what she did, really. Like, who she killed.
Yeah. She's, like, disconnected from time, and, like, the episode ended last week but the week before, I guess, with him with her going to the door and being greeted by Pangborn, who had, like, just moved back into town and was starting up something with her.
And so, yeah, this is where you were circling back to what you were talking about. This is where we start to get bigger hints about what's really going on, which the next episode dives like head first into it. But this is like this is where they drop some hints because the kid like talks to Henry. The kid tells Henry they gotta get into the woods. They gotta go into the woods, and Henry is just like. He thinks they want to take the body into the woods or something. And he's like, and then like kid says something about he rescued Henry from a basement.
Yeah, from a cage, and I just let you out of the cage or something.
He's like getting mad at Henry.
He's like, I didn't ask for any of this.
And basically calling him ungrateful, like basically saying, I saved you from that cage in the in the basement. And Henry has like no fucking clue what the hell he's talking about. He's like, what? Like what cage? What you even?
Yeah, I think the thing that really kind of threw me for a loop was like just the way he was like, I didn't ask for any of this, which is like kind of out of character from the kind of like vague, cryptic, mysterious way he'd been before that. Where it had always been like, oh, what he's talking in riddles. What's going on with this? What is he doing here with this? And we kind of like that was like the first time we've seen like a break of that character, so to speak, that character of this like vague, mysterious, dangerous person.
Right.
He's like, I didn't ask for any of this. I didn't want, and you're like, what the hell? What's going on? Like, this is like out of character, and it's something that ends up being played into in the next episode, but we'll get to that in the next episode.
He also drops another bombshell towards the end of the episode that's related to next episode as well.
Yes. We'll get to that later, but I guess we should get back to the
because that's going because this is like the B story, and this stuff isn't really related to anything happening with the overall plot. This is just like a B story that's happening that just happens to be tangentially related because of the house that they're living in. But
this is like very Stephen King.
Yeah, this is like a very Stephen King plot. This is classic Stephen King. This is the Shining Stephen King right here.
Yeah.
This is reminiscent of The Shining. I think this whole thing is just to like pay homage to Shining within like the series. But yeah, they move into the old warden's house, and they mention like there have been murders in that house in the past, and also they make note that Castle Rock itself is notorious for like murders and bad things happening, so like they set it up as like this sort of like murder like theme park, like bed and breakfast,
tourist attraction, bed and breakfast,
So they have so he has like these mannequins that he puts together and sets them up like of the murder victims and stuff. There's like a mannequin with an axe through its head just sitting on there. They get this young couple coming through town just needing a place to stay for the night, and they stay for a night, and then like in the middle of the night, like the husband, he gets up and he just murders them.
Yeah, there's like a few things that lead to that. So like first there's like as they're explaining their kind of murder house setup to this couple.
Well, he's acting weird the whole time, right? Well, they show him he's been acting weird the whole time.
Yeah.
And because of the opening scene that there's something off with the husband, like it's not just like he's acting weird. It's like they already telegraph from the jump that this guy is wrong. So
he's got like violent intentions buried in him.
Yeah.
But what they're doing is like they're like explaining this house to this couple, and the couple just does not give a shit.
No,
they just want a place to stay.
Yeah, they're just looking for a convenient place to stay. They do not shit.
And so like as they're talking about it, like one of them says like, "Oh, I guess this is nice for young people that care about this stuff," and you could just kind of see this like twitch on his face, like of annoyance,
Right.
And then later on, like when he's trying to sleep, like
they're having
sex, yeah.
Yeah. And so he goes down and he murders them, and then his wife finds him, with the over the bodies, with the knife in his hands, and then he says, and then later on there's like a later scene where they're bagging up the bodies and stuff, and and he says something like, "Well, this isn't like me. I never killed anybody before. Like, I'm not a killer." He's telling this to his wife, and it's and like
nothing happened.
Yeah, like nothing, and she's like nothing happened. But like they make this implication that it's the house that's doing it, that's compelling him to kill. Like that's a classic Stephen King trope, like the haunted house is compelling him to kill. But then I just thought back to like that first scene. I was like, well, they weren't even in Castle Rock or into that house when he beat that guy, so he obviously had violent tendencies. Like he can't say like this isn't like me, because like I'm like, they can't say that's why I said it's contradictory, because I'm like, they can't say it's like the house's influence if he was already violent. Like I don't know what the point
violence in him, in his soul, but I don't think he acted on it.
Right, but even if he didn't act on it, even if that was a fantasy, it still implies like he was that way, independent of any ghostly.
But he wasn't acting on it. Like I see it. I see the effect being more similar to like the effect of alcohol loosening your inhibitions.
Oh, right.
Like it took these violent thoughts he had, and it pushed him to the extra step to actually commit them instead of just thinking about. Like that's kind of how I read it.
Rick, you know what? Actually, that's a good interpretation. Yeah, you're right. That makes sense.
It's like the house got him drunk on murder.
Yeah, the house. yeah, exactly. The house. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Like the house didn't bring out anything that wasn't already there.
Yeah, it didn't create his desire to murder, but it turned his desire to murder into murder.
Into action.
Yeah. That's kind of like how I saw it. But then, so as they're like kind of getting rid of this, and it seems like the wife is like all in on covering it up. And she'd been kind of like more wary of him before, which is so strange. Because like she was like more wary of him before.
Yeah,
and then after he killed, she was like all in.
Like all in, right? She's like, okay, I guess.
Like, I guess we're chopping up bodies. That's fine.
Yeah. She's like, okay, I guess we're murderers now. Whatever.
Which could also imply like some effect the house is having on her as well.
Right.
Like in kind of drawing out some feeling from within her.
So
while they're doing that, they get a knock on the door.
Yeah.
And that's Molly's friend, Jackie.
Yep.
She shows up.
Who again, like, you could tell this whole thing was like a Shining, because like this is the character in the show that's directly related to like the main character from The Shining, according to the show's lore. So like, of course she shows up to this, right? So of all the people at Castle Rock, of course, she is drawn to this.
She runs a taxi. So she's trying to create like some kind of a business connection where, she'll tell people when she picks them up in the taxi, like, oh, you need somewhere to stay? Well, how about this place? It's kind of cool and it's got this other thing going on. And, and then if you guys have like somebody staying with you, you can return the favor. And so she's trying to kind of create that kind of a connection with the people at this house, because they're going to be operating a bread and breakfast. She ends up going inside the house. She sees like the murder mannequins. And she's like all into it. She's like, I had this exact same idea, but props to you guys for actually following through. I wasn't actually ever gonna probably get around to doing anything about it. So I'm glad somebody's doing something about that. Respect. She's kind of like, she likes that. They're trying to push her out of there, and she's just kind of like, yeah, okay, I guess, whatever. And she finally leaves, but as she's leaving, she like accidentally kicks one of the bags. And she's kind of like, it kind of puts her off a little bit. And then it's like a series of more things that put her off as she's leaving. So she like leaves the house. She accidentally kicked the bag and realized like, oh, there's these bags around. Okay. And then as she's walking out further, she sees all those bags in the truck.
Yeah.
And then she sees this thing on the ground. It's like a bracelet.
Yeah. It's got blood in it.
Yeah. And she picks it up and she tastes the blood too. She like, and realizes it's blood.
Not a good idea to just taste random blood, find on a bracelet. That's a good way to get diseases. But anyway.
but it's how she discerns like, this isn't fake blood, this is blood.
Right, exactly.
And kind of is really put off at that point. And from that point on, it's like tense as shit. She's like slowly like walking to her car, which is like right by it, and like leaving, and you're like, oh god, is this guy gonna like pop out of the background and kill her or something now that she's like kind of on to him? But that doesn't happen.
Well, that doesn't happen because they don't notice that she's onto them. Like they don't notice that at all. So he's lucky there. So we kind of like leave them for a while until Henry decides to start snooping around because he's looking for something about this kid.
Mm-hmm.
So he goes snooping around the warden's old home, looking for clues as to what's going on.
We should bring up the paintings now.
Yeah, well, this is the big thing. Yeah, the paintings, because here's the deal. There were all these paintings, right, that were locked in the cellar.
All
right?
of the kids.
And we remember from like one of the first episodes when Henry first visited and the warden's widow was there and she was telling Henry to leave. She had the locked cellar that Henry couldn't get in, So when I guess she passed away or something. What happened to her? I don't know. But anyway, so when this couple moves in, they break the lock on the cellar.
They had talked about that they were moving her out.
Oh yeah, they were moving her out. Well, when this couple moves in,
she's blind and she couldn't take care of herself.
That's not important. When this couple move in, they break the lock on the cellar and they move all the paintings out of the cellar and they hang them up.
Mm-hmm.
So Henry,
they'd asked for the house with all the paintings when they had bought it.
Yes. So when Henry breaks in, he has to break in through the cellar, so he goes through there, he gets up and he finds this room with all these paintings hanging up of the kid,
Yeah.
And he's going through these paintings and he's looking at the dates that they were painted and the dates keep getting like older and older and this kid's appearance, the appearance of the kid in the paintings is not changing.
Yeah, it's like 2016, 2004, 1997. It just keeps going back.
Until finally he finds a painting of the kid that's dated 1991, the year that he went missing, the year Henry went missing.
Also of note
wearing the exact same shirt Henry was wearing when he went missing.
Also worth noting is that with 1991 is that the character, the kid had said to Henry around the same time he was like, I freed you from a cage and everything. He said, I waited for you for 27 years.
Yes.
Well, 91 plus 27, that's 2018.
That's 2018. I waited for you for 27 years.
Yeah. So that's like kind of like the, oh shit, like has that moment.
Yeah, that's the old shit moment. And at that point, Henry starts to leave when the history teacher confronts him, and questions him what he's doing there, and Henry manages to be like, well, I just leave. And he's like, yeah, you better do that. And Henry starts to leave and then the wife comes up behind him with a knife and tries to stab him. She
does. She literally stabs him in the back.
She said, well, she tried to more fatally stab him.
Yeah.
Yeah, she tries to, he stabs him in the back and then this leads to an altercation where
I call it a gruesome comedy of errors.
Yeah, this leads to an altercation.
Around and she cuts her own artery on her neck.
She ends up slicing the artery on her neck. This enrages the husband.
It's almost to the point of being Final Destination-esque.
Yes.
In the way that there's constantly every swing of the arm with a slice is going to connect to something. It's the house is thirsty for blood and it's just everything's connecting. Even she like I said, stabs herself in the artery in the neck and she falls back and is dying. And like you said, the husband is enraged. Henry's running out to his car. He gets in his car, but as he's trying to start it up, the husband yanks him out of the window and he's trying to kill Henry and Henry's just on the ground trying to survive, trying to hold the knife away from him.
Right. And then
at that point, you know what's going to happen. You don't necessarily know.
Well, Jackie comes up and she bashes his head in with the front of the axe, right? She just puts an axe on his head. The axe from the mannequin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It puts it in the head, so it's out of one head into another.
Yep. And she saves Henry. And so the cops come and they're questioning Henry for the second time that day, right? Because he was already being questioned about Pangborn's body. Now he's being questioned about this with Jackie and and then he gets a phone call and he takes off.
Yeah, he takes off like a bat out of hell.
He takes off like a bat.
Causes everybody at the scene to be kind of a little suspicious and what the hell's going on? What's he doing?
Yeah.
I guess meanwhile,
We also got mentioned, I think, earlier in the episode. He puts his son back on the bus to go back to Boston, and his son wants him to go with him. He can't, so he gets on the bus. As soon as the bus starts to leave, a crow drops on the windshield of the bus, dead, and then Henry's son, his ears start ringing.
Yeah, he starts grabbing his head in pain.
Yep, and then later there's a scene where like the bus stops at some place like outside of Castle Rock, and then like Henry's son decides to just get off there and head back towards Castle Rock.
Mm-hmm.
Like so that's something. But yeah, it'd be remiss if we forgot about that plot.
Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, Molly returns to her house and finds the kid there.
Yes.
And the kid's talking to her. He's saying Henry's not ready. He's talking cryptically about that. And then he said, like, but you can help. Let me show you something. And he takes her up to her window that's overlooking everything where we've seen her looking out before. And he's pointing out into the woods and he says, you died out there. That's where you died.
Yeah, exactly. That's the other bombshell that he drops that we pick up in the next episode.
So that's pretty much it for this episode, right?
That's pretty much it for this episode, yeah.
So on to the next episode, and the big plot device in this episode, the big thing that separates this from the others, is that this whole episode kicks off.
Well, let's see. It kicks off with the same speech that the warden made. That the warden made, the voiceover from the warden in an earlier episode. It's the exact same voiceover, except this time it's the voiceover is by Henry's dad saying the exact same words. And we show Henry's dad, and we show him making a cage in his basement the same way the warden. So you're like, what? Like, something's already off about this
Yeah,
episode.
like, I don't remember a cage being in this basement in this house. Like,
and why is Henry's dad saying these things, like, exact same things the warden said, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's kind of confusing. We're like, what's going on here? And then we get the moment that's kind of telling the real, like, huh? Kind of moment is that we see, I believe it's like New York City,
and it's the kid, and before you start thinking, is this the past? You're like, nope, it's modern day because they have cell phones.
Yeah, and he has a modern car, and
he has a modern car. And he has this great job, and he has a girlfriend or fiance or whatever relationship that's not really clarified. But
yeah.
But it's like, and he's fully functional. He's not weird. He's like a normal person. And so you're like, what the fuck? Like,
it's also a big character tick difference because if you notice that the kid in all of the other scenes we've seen him in, he has like one shoulder that's kind of arched up all the time. Mm-hmm. Like he's like hunchbacked or something, or like he's got some deformity or something.
Right.
And he's not like that here,
He's not like that.
His shoulders are straight normal. He's just a normal young man.
So I'm just like, I'm sitting there going, okay, what fuckery is this now? Like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
And we find out what's going on. This is a mind trip. This is a mind trip because quickly he gets a phone call from Sheriff Pangborn telling him like his dad had passed away. His dad being Henry Deaver's dad.
Yeah.
And then he goes to Castle Rock, and we quickly find out that he's Henry Deaver.
Yeah, he's talking to people and saying, "Oh, it's Henry Deaver," and so it's like, okay, so this is. He's the son of this, this couple, and it's like, wait a minute, they had the adopted son. What's going on? But yeah, so it's just like, okay, this is this whole episode is basically paralleling the events of the entire season.
Yeah, paralleling the events
with these big differences.
Yeah. With the big difference being that Henry Deaver is this kid and not Henry Deaver. Right?
But there's like other things too. Like his father had lived all the way to the present time. He didn't die when he was a kid. He ended up killing himself basically around the same time, parallel wise to when I guess the warden had
kills himself. Yeah. So So it seems like the Keeper of the Devil and either like they're just fated to kill themselves at that moment.
There's like differences.
That's an odd parallel, right?
There's differences in character relationships. Like Molly and her sister are on good terms. They like, you know, they work together and stuff. Whereas like in the reality, we know that they're estranged.
Pangborn and Henry's mother are living in Florida. They're not in Castle Rock.
Yeah, they moved away.
Because like that scene they showed earlier episode where she was going to leave Henry's dad and take Henry with them. Like this universe, she actually did that.
Mm-hmm.
She actually goes through with that in this universe. That's why she's on Castle Rock. So it's interesting, like the differences.
Yeah. And so in this one, you know, Henry, which is the kid this time, is trying to, basically like, you know, pack up his dad's life. He's going to the house and packing stuff up and kind of, at one point, he's talking to his, fiance, girlfriend, wife, whatever, on the phone. They're talking about, you know, her taking a pregnancy test and the lights cut out. Like there's like a surge or something. It causes the circuit breaker to go off. So he's like, oh, damn it. He's, hold on, I'm gonna fix this as he's talking to her on the phone. And he goes down into the basement and we basically get a recreation of the scene in which the one prison guard found the kid in the basement. But this time it's the kid finding Henry, or the Henry Deaver that we had known. This is getting complicated. But as a kid.
Yeah. So Henry as a kid is in his dad's basement in a cage.
Yes.
Yeah.
Found by Henry, who's the kid.
Yeah.
Henry, who's the kid, finds Henry as a kid.
We'll just say Henry A and Henry B. How about that? So Henry B is in the cage, and he's found by Henry A, or should be the other way around.
I say we call the White Henry.
I say
White Henry and Henry.
I say that's yikes.
It's like in was it Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, White Josh?
Oh yeah, White Josh. Yeah.
So now we have White Henry and Henry.
But anyway, let's just say like, I don't know. Yeah, let's just do it. Henry A, Henry B. So Henry A finds Henry B in the cage, right? And Henry B is like in the same state that Henry A was when he was found in the other universe. You know, he's not very talkative. You know, he's all shook up and shit, and he acts weird. He acts strange. The police come and they're trying to figure out what to do about him, and he just like takes off into the woods like immediately. They go grab him.
We should note also here that one of the police officers on the scene, kind of the main police officer throughout this episode that we see,
is the prison guard in Shawshank. So instead of a prison guard, he's actually a police officer in this universe, which is another difference.
Have you noticed that most of the differences in this world are kind of like for the better?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I noticed that. That's weird, right? Like this is like a better world, right? Even though they establish at the beginning, even in this universe, Castle Rock is still a horrible place where horrible things happen, right? So that doesn't change.
But there's it's still like things are in like better places. Like I said, Molly's has an actual better relationship with her family. This guy who is a prison guard and hated his job is now like working at the sheriff's station and seems to like his job a lot more. It's just like so many different things are like in better places. Like Kid Henry is like his life's in a better place than the other Henry was, you know, when he was like kind of, you know, depressed and before he got his call to go to Castle Rock. Right. This Henry's like he's got a girlfriend and he's trying to, you know, they're trying to get pregnant together.
Alzheimer's, so he could help his mother.
Yeah, there's like a completely different feeling towards everything. There's like things are better. Like this is the good world, and the world we've seen is the bad world or the darker world, you know?
Yeah. Except we find out like his dad was like the exact same he was his father was still crazy. He still took him out into the woods when he was a kid to hear the voice of God, you know.
The difference is that his mom got him away from it.
Yeah, the difference is the difference is like I said, his mom took him and left and got him away from it.
Yep. So as we're getting through all these differences, we're continuing to race through parallel events to the story. There's the same thing with like the mental ward or like group home or whatever being set on fire the same way. All that kind of stuff is happening with these kind of these role
we find out
reversals of these two Henrys.
with these reversals, we find out that bad things follow young Henry around just as they did the kid in the other universe,
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a complete reversal. And basically what ends up happening is Molly and Henry A take custody of Henry B, right?
Yeah.
And
they take temporary custody so he doesn't have to sleep in a jail.
And Molly, being psychic, she touches Henry B and she gets all these visions of the other universe and the other universe and stuff, and she figures out through her psychic visions that all the stuff that this Henry is saying is true, and that she needs to help him.
So they do a little daring escape because they're being followed by the police officer who has to watch out on them.
Well, yeah, he's set to escort them and watch them so they don't try any funny business.
They're able to ditch him thanks to a train.
Mm-hmm.
The classic train ditching maneuver trope. They do that, then they stop the car, and Henry B immediately jumps out of the car and starts running into the forest. And Molly and Henry A are following him. Stuff starts getting trippy. There's visualizations going on, weird stuff. The sheriff ends up showing up, or the deputy or whatever. He fires a warning shot in the air, and he's chasing them and telling him, "Don't do this, stop, what are you doing?" to Molly, basically. And she continues to run after him, and then they're both just kind of standing there, Molly and the kid, and Henry's kind of a little bit further back, and all of a sudden Molly gets shot.
Yeah.
And it's no new gunshot happened. There was only the one shot into the air.
Yeah.
And the deputy's all I did was shoot a warning shot into the air. I didn't do anything else. And then Henry A goes over to Molly as she's dying, and Molly's you need to help.
You need to help you need to help that kid. You need to help him. So Henry A runs after Henry B, and they end up in between worlds in this weird all
of a sudden he's standing in the snow by himself, or he's sitting in the snow by himself. Basically where the entire series began, which are Pangborn doing the same thing.
Yep, he's sitting in the snow by himself, and he overlooks he's overlooking the lake, and he sees Henry B on the lake and Sheriff Pangborn discovering him. Basically what happened in the first. So now we know exactly what happened to Henry back then. We know the whole backstory behind that, which apparently Henry does not have any, or at least Henry B now doesn't have any real recollection of what happened.
Yeah, and so that's basically, we cut back to the present, and we see Henry A telling Molly, and that's what happened. Do you believe me? I was never able to get back. I've been stuck here this whole time, and then I was found by Sheriff Lacey, or Warden Lacey, and I got imprisoned for 27 years, and that's been my life, basically. I never was able to get back. I've been stuck in this cage. And now Molly's well, I don't, how am I supposed to believe you? She's kind of just looking at him okay, what the hell? And that's where the episode ends.
Yep, pretty much.
So now the idea is all of this, is Henry A just the kid and he's full of shit? Or is this some reality? What's going on?
He's not full of shit. This is,
I wouldn't think so. Yeah, it's such a weird twist.
They're not gonna do a whole episode of this and then just be surprise, this was all a lie. that would be bullshit. And
a pretty big shift. This is almost like a Lost-esque shift.
Right. Again, this is classic Stephen King, because the idea is that there's a multiverse, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they even mention the idea of a multiverse, earlier.
Then he ran into the gunslinger.
Yeah. Roland shows up. I'm surprised there was no
says Henry A, you do not shoot with your finger, you shoot with your heart.
Yeah, with your heart. I'm surprised there hasn't been a Dark Tower reference in the show, actually, but
while the show was being made, they were making that Dark Tower movie too. I would think they probably just didn't want to.
Oh, probably that movie was garbage. Jesus,
yeah,
wait so long for something and then get that. It's wow.
But yeah, this is crazy. This is like I said, like a Lost level twist. This is like the kind of thing you'd get at the, end of a season of Lost or something. And we got one episode left.
Yeah, this was definitely a mind bender, so it makes me excited, Nelly.
Yeah, definitely. It's been really picking up, this show, in the last couple episodes.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So, I mean, I liked the last episode, not the one we're just talking about, just because of that B plot with the history teacher and his wife,
Right.
That was just crazy. That was just classic Stephen King, like really well developed and laid out, like really well executed Stephen King kind of vision. And then following that up with this big mindfuck of an episode.
Yeah.
It's been great. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to next week's season finale.
So the implication was like the kid, he isn't the devil. He isn't anything supernatural. He is just a person outside of his own universe, outside of where he belongs. Mm-hmm. And I think the implication of why people around him go crazy and die is just because is just a side effect of him being someplace he's not supposed to be. That's also why he doesn't age. He doesn't age because, again, he is outside of his universe, outside of his timeline. So, and we notice it was the same thing with Henry Deaver kid back then because, in the other universe Henry B was held for 27 years,
Well, we weren't told how long, there was nothing, it's the implication is that it was the same thing, that it happened around the same time.
We know that because...
Oh yeah, he was going through the audio tapes.
He was going through the audio tapes, yeah, exactly.
That's right.
So we know he was held for 27 years, just like that, because it was 2018 in the other universe when we meet Henry Deaver A for the first time, as himself. It was 2018. And so when they go through the woods and he ends up going back in time, Henry B ends up where, at the exact time from when he disappeared.
Yeah, definitely. It seems to be the kind of the way I'm thinking it through is that the whole idea that they're like a lightning rod for misfortune and evil and stuff is kind of true, but it's because they're not in their reality.
Right.
It's exactly. The fact that they're not in their reality makes them a lightning rod. Cause Henry was is a lightning rod in the one world and then I guess Henry also with the other Henry is a lightning rod in the other one. So,
right.
Although they both seem to be a bit of a lightning rod for trouble in the main universe or the main world that we're used to.
Well, it's like the same concept from 1963 or no 11/22/63. Mm-hmm. It's the same concept where when the main character of that novel he goes back and back in time and he saves JFK from being killed, which creates this alternate timeline. Stephen King he goes back to the future from that, and it's the world is an apocalyptic mess because the timeline kept because he fucked up the timeline, and so the timeline kept making horrible shit happen to try and course correct, mm-hmm. So it fucked everything up on a cosmic scale, and so this is kind of the same concept where you messed with something in the natural order, something is out of place, it's wrong now, and so shit horrible shit's gonna happen now until shit's corrected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's the whole thing is going to be trying to figure out where that correction lies and what that's going to mean. Apparently from what we've heard, this is an anthology series. So this entire story is supposed to be wrapped up in the next episode. Then next season's an entirely new story. So yeah, it's smart. I'm liking it. With one episode left, I'm really excited to see how this all ends. And yeah, it's turned out, it's kind of, I think it's surpassed my expectations of the series. How do you feel?
Yeah, I'm very happy with it.
Yeah. So that's it for the episode. We'll be talking about this again next week. We'll be talking about the season finale next week. But until then, here's what's coming up in the week ahead. So on Friday, as we're recording this, September 7th, 2018, 3 shows hit Netflix. Cable Girls, which I believe is for its final season. Atypical also hit back on Netflix. And Marvel's Iron Fist hit Netflix. I'm already halfway through it, and we're going to talk about it later, so I won't go into any details. All I'll say is that there's still reason to dislike the series, but it's vastly improved over the first season.
Which is good to hear.
But like, it's one of those things where you could say like, man, this is infinitely better than the first season. And then the instant response you can make is, so it's still bad, eh? Just saying how bad the first season was. But yeah, so, use your own judgment if you're going to check it out and everything, but I think it's way better than the first season. So if that's what you're going to judge it by, then that's something to look forward to. On Saturday, September 8th, 2018, FLCL Alternative comes to Adult Swim. So this is the second FLCL spinoff or sequel series. I'm still waiting for a subtitled version. But the last one was FLCL Progressive. This is FLCL Alternative. And this one people have already seen the first episode of because they aired it on April 1st, on April Fool's. They actually aired this episode instead of the last one.
Oh, okay.
The show. So check that out if you're an anime fan or a fan of FLCL. On Sunday, September 9th, 2018, we start getting into fall lineup stuff, lots of stuff coming back and new shows. You comes back to Lifetime. Kidding comes to Showtime. This is Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
In this series. He plays like a Mr. Rogers-esque figure. And then Shameless returns to Showtime. Rel comes to Fox, the sitcom. The Deuce returns to HBO. That's the one about the origin of the porn industry. It takes place in New York, and it's James Franco playing two roles. The Miniaturist comes to PBS, and The Last Ship returns for its final season on TNT. Then on Wednesday, September 12th, 2018, American Horror Story returns on FX. This is the one we talked about last week on our podcast, being a crossover between seasons 1 and 3 of the series, the best 2 seasons of the show. Then Life debuts on Netflix. On Thursday, September 13th, 2018, Snatch returns to Crackle. Have you watched any of the Crackle originals? They've been pushing a few of them.
No, I haven't.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of them either, but they have a few big ones with some big stars in them and stuff. Snatch and Startup and a few other ones, so it's kind of interesting. But that's back. It's on Crackle on September 13th. Friday, September 14th, 2018. This is just a whole lot of Netflix here. BoJack Horseman returns. Ingovernable returns. The Dragon Prince debuts. That's the new one from the creator of Avatar: The Last Airbender. Last Hope, which is a new anime series, debuts on Netflix. Norm Macdonald Has a Show. It's Norm Macdonald's talk show. Debuts on Netflix. American Vandal returns to Netflix. And The Rise of Phoenixes debuts on Netflix. This is like a Chinese martial arts epic. So, yeah, just that's 7 Netflix shows in one night. So, and some big ones too. So, I think for the two of us, the biggest one is going to be American Vandal. That's the one we're both looking forward to the most, I think, of those Netflix shows.
Right.
But there's a few on there I'm going to watch. So also that on that day, the first debuts on Hulu. This is a story about, I think it's about going to Mars. It's about man's first mission to Mars, and it's got Sean Penn as the lead actor in it. But it's another Hulu original. And then Forever comes to Amazon, which is a new comedy series, I believe.
Oh, nice.
So that's it for the week ahead. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Tyson Gifford. You can follow Will. He is at Voxel Hero. Check out our Facebook page and our YouTube channel, as well as our site, thetotalscreen.com. You can subscribe to this podcast through any major podcast client like iTunes or Pocket Cast. And the entire backlog of our podcast is available on our YouTube channel. So thank you everybody for listening. Good night.
Good night.
If you would like to reach out to us and make a comment, send an email to contact@thetotalscreen.com. Stay tuned to The Total Screen for the very best